Good afternoon, everyone. It is now afternoon. I just had to check. Thanks for tuning into the Nationals live stream. I'm from the office for the local elections 2022 in Scotland. Abby Garton-Crosby, my colleague, is over at the Emirates Arena in Glasgow for the big count for the city council there. I'm going to hand you straight over to Abby because we've had a massive result come in just midday in the Langside ward. Abby, tell us more.
Yeah, so Langside is a ward in the south side of Glasgow. It's kind of a up and coming area. They kind of put a lot of money into it to kind of make it a bit like the West End, just to give a bit of context. And the leader of the Glasgow SNP group, Susan Aitken, she is standing in that ward. Now, she didn't come out on top of first preference votes, which I think was a surprise to both the Greens and the SNP, because Holly Bruce, who's a 28-year-old candidate, came out with the most first preference votes. So there were a lot of tears from the Greens, who I just do not think were expecting it. They were quite shocked. There was people were very emotional. I tried to get hold of Susan Aitken, but she'd disappeared by the time I'd finished speaking to Holly. But I had seen her on LBC saying that she's not ashamed of her track record and things like that. But yeah, that's a pretty massive one. I don't think that anybody was expecting that to happen, to be frank.
It seems to be that the Greens have got off to a flying start. I think Patrick Harvey called that result extraordinary, was his word, wasn't it? And I think that the Greens have picked up their first councillor in South Lanarkshire in East Kilbride East as well. So I think I think this is going to be the sort of pattern we're going to see throughout the day. I think they're going to pick up councillors where they've never had them before. So I think it's going to be a good day for them. How are things looking for the SNP in Glasgow, Abby, in what's coming so far, other than Susan Aitken?
Yeah, I mean, it's we're only getting drips and drabs at the moment, but it's neck and neck with Labour, actually, is what Labour are saying anyway, because I was earwigging after they won Shettleston. So they won 2 councillors in Shettleston. That was the first declaration we got this morning, at the expense of a current SNP councillor. So, it's all up in the air. Like the Labour were saying that they think they're neck and neck and that it's the best day that they've had in Glasgow since 2015. So it's all up in the air at the moment, really, to be honest. Like, it's kind of hard to call because of the low turnout and stuff. But, the Greens are confident. The SNP are doing all right. It's going to be on the line, I think, in Glasgow, to be fair. It's going to be a tight walk of an election to see how many we get by the end of it. But still a lot of the day to go. I think we've only had 3 wards out of 28 or something. Well, I don't actually know.
It's a huge
That's
council.
Not the right numbers. Yeah. It's not the right numbers, but there's a lot of them. There's over 20, so we're going to be here for a while, so we get a better picture. And obviously, every ward has like 3 or 4 councillors that get elected too. So let's wait until we get the final numbers. We'll be able to give us a better idea. But Labour are certainly making gains. I think they're picking up a lot of Tory votes. Basically, probably by the looks of it, they seem to have gone to Labour because Tories kind of scraping through. Thomas Kerr, who's the group's leader, got in, but I think he was down the bottom. I can double check those results, but he did get in as well. But yeah, it's looking like a good day for Labour in Glasgow, which I think is a surprise as well.
I think that obviously Labour have made some big gains down south as well. It seems like it's they're probably quietly optimistic about their chances. Alba have actually got off to. We were all sort of didn't really know how Alba were going to get on in this election. It's the first time that they're trying to get their first councillors elected under the Alba banner. Because that's never happened before. The party only formed last year. They've got off to the worst possible start in that Brian Topping, who has been a councillor in Aberdeenshire for I think since the 1980s. Long time, has lost his seat. I think it was quite close, but they're just not getting enough first preference votes. So he's lost his seat, and that was one of their biggest hopes. And in Inverclyde, it's not looking good either for Chris McElhenney, who's the general secretary. He's been pretty honest with me on the phone this morning that it's not looking like they're going to get anywhere. Again, just not enough first preference votes. Plenty of seconds and thirds is what he says, but not enough at the top. And so that'll be the same probably for his dad, Jim, as well in Green. So I mean, it's not looking like a good forecast for them at the minute. But they've got a lot of candidates standing everywhere. You never know. I mean,
That's the nature of local elections. You can try and guess, but you really don't know.
No, you don't.
There's a lot of
did,
things
that Green result was just a massive shock. So
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I thought that she might get elected, Holly Bruce. I thought that she might get in, but I didn't think
Of course,
that she'd get votes. You know, so like that is showing that there is a bit of a Green surge in Glasgow, and even in the areas where the Greens didn't get in the top 3 or didn't get a councillor, there's still their percentage of the vote is growing, like Tweeddale and the Scottish Borders. I was speaking to someone who said that wasn't even a target seat for them, so they didn't understand. So they were like shocked that they got like such a boost to the vote there. Same in Shetland, I noticed that they've had a little bit of a boost in some of the areas, but they've not got a seat. But that's understandable because Shetland's all independents. But considering they are making great gains, even in areas where they wouldn't be expected to make gains, so I think that the party to watch out for today is probably the Greens to see where they come out at the end.
Absolutely. I think that do you think that is reflective of their national influence expanding as well?
I think that they've probably had a little bit more recognition on the doorstep. This is a lot of them were saying to me kind of across like a lot of the council profiles that we did. So a lot of them, like in the Borders, are saying, you know, the cooperation deal with the SNP is giving them a bit more of like, people know who they are now, and they're not just like think they're extremists, as you know, unionists like to call them extremists. So yeah, I think they had a lot of recognition. I think they've been bolstered by that, and I also think probably COP26 and the climate crisis has really helped that, because people are really concerned about it. Particularly in Glasgow, we have a massive rubbish problem. And you know, all the parties are trying to go towards climate crisis, but the Greens have been doing it for longer than anybody else. So I think that might be helping them a little bit, you know. They know what they're doing when it comes to the environment. But it's interesting.
Absolutely.
Very interesting day.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be an interesting day for the Conservatives as well, isn't it?
Oh,
Quite
yes,
on the opposite end of the scale it's looking at. They've had some really, really bad results down south, which is what happened overnight. And I think we're seeing the start of, you know, their vote decreasing in Scotland as well. There's been a lot of chat about some of the Scottish Tories blaming Boris Johnson for their failure.
Yeah,
There's people that are saying Douglas Ross needs to own this. He's the one that told Boris to go, and then did an about turn and said, "Oh no, he's the best guy for the job during the Ukraine war." So you know, I think that. They're going to have a tough day, aren't they, Abby? Probably.
Yeah, I think they are too. I mean, if you look at what happened in England, I wrote this in a few hours ago, so not sure if the numbers are still accurate, but they'd lost 131 seats, as far as I'm aware. So, you know, that's a lot to lose overnight. Then obviously that's in England, but it's definitely going to have an impact here too. And I think Douglas Ross, I know he's at the Murray count, so, you know, he is at one of the local election counts. That's obviously where his MP and MSP area is. So, you know, we will hear more about that today, but I think that they're going to be in for a bit of a shocker, to be honest. I think that Labour is probably going to pick up on a lot of protest votes. We have a Labour win. I don't know where.
Big cheer in Glasgow.
We have a Labour win, and I'm only guessing that because I can see red. It's very far away. If I turn the computer around, just be able to see.
Well, if it pops through on my feed, then I'll be able to tell you what it is. So we've got a Labour gain somewhere, I think. In Glasgow.
It looks like potentially 2. I can see 2 ladies with rosettes from a far distance. This is what it's like being a journalist at a vote count, because they put you as far away from the action as possible. So anytime something happens, all the journalists have been running down from the top of the where I am up in the sticks down to the other end of the hall, which takes a couple of minutes, and there's a lot of stairs, but it's the fun of an election.
I'm always surprised there aren't more injuries that happen to journalists at these counts, because the amount of stairs that you have to go down, it's arena stairs, which are always, you know, really hazardous. And
we're all getting our step count.
I'm surprised people don't miss their seats sometimes.
I know they've given us nice little desks with chargers though, which is, you know, a little upgrade from one of the other times I've been here when there was no plugs. So that's good. But well, we'll find out what happened there once we're near off of the live stream. But it's a very exciting day. I think that definitely some sort of shake-up going on in Glasgow. I don't think it's going to be, you know, an easy sailing for everybody.
Just to remind everyone, it's a bit different to how things work in England, because we've got a proportional representation vote in Scotland. We're not really going to know who's going to take control of any council today, even if, you know, we have a case where the SNP have got the most councillors somewhere. We won't necessarily know unless they have a majority that who will take control, because often parties form pacts with each other to form an administration. And those type of discussions will probably start happening next week. So
and also
it's a bit of a funny sort of vibe.
It's also very hard to get a majority in the STD system, which makes coalitions kind of a necessity, which is bizarre that Anna Sauer, like at the beginning, said that he was going to rule that out, because Labour will probably have to go into some sort of power sharing with people across the country. Maybe Aberdeen, like there's a lot of places where it could happen, but I think this is going to be a very interesting one.
As they're gaining councillors as well, like that's surely got to happen, because they'll want to be in power and able to influence things.
Yeah, I mean, the Greens and the SFP haven't ruled out working with anybody except the Tories, essentially. Like, that's the only people that they say they won't work with because they don't have anything in common with them. But they don't rule out Labour, so, there could be a couple of SNP Labour councillors to come out of this, but we're too early in the day to figure out where they're going to be yet. That, as you said, will probably be something for next week.
Yeah, absolutely. At least it just, keeps going for us. But I suppose that's probably the main news at the moment, isn't it, Abby? But we've got a live blog going on the national.scot, and all the big stories will be on there as well as they come in. I think I've got down that Moray are the first council to declare today a full overall result at 12:30. That could change, but that's what we that's our understanding at the moment.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's an electronic count, which is making things go faster as well. So they're going through
very fast.
Yeah, they're like little fancy printers that they go into, and then they pop up on the screen so everybody can see if it gets rejected or accepted. And you can see that some have been rejected because they've had X in the box instead of numbers. Like, I've seen that going about today. So despite the fact that everybody always says vote your numbers, it still happens. You're still going to get some spoiled ballots. So we'll find out later on how many have been spoiled, but I have seen a couple of them walking about while I was having a nosy and speaking to people earlier. So
spoiled ballots are always fun as well. You do get some, really dodgy ones where somebody's written something ridiculous all over their ballot.
I didn't see any offensive language, thankfully, but just some
I hope you come across one at some point.
So do I. Make the day.
Right, well, we'll wrap up for now. Good luck over in Glasgow, Abby.
Thank you. I'll be back on later.
Excellent, yes. So we'll bring you everything we can on the national.scot, on our live blog, and in other stories as well, and on our social media, on Twitter and Facebook. But for now, we'll see you all later.